Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank Thiru and his team for having me over here. It's good to be back in WGSHA. I don't have a set of presentation, so you'll see a lot of me out there too. Don't have any slides. I know it's an after-lunch session, so it's going to be pretty easy. So if you're going to yawn, just go ahead and you can raise your hand and say, go slow. Okay? Let me just, actually, whatever I was going to speak is already been spoken to you about. First session in the morning, everybody's covered a lot of aspects of what I thought I was going to speak, and they shared their experiences. It's quite similar. I'll try and add to that if it's going to be useful. And of course, he's helped me read out what I've done. So let me just run you through what my experiences in life. I think I will not go so much to the entrepreneur, and you can figure it out. Some of them are entrepreneurial traits that you'll find along the way, and how I took my journey so far. So, I came to WGSHA, which is from a boarding school, so it was nice to be here and learned a lot out here. Didn't know if I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I did know that I'm going to do my master's. That is something I wanted to do, and that's why I came to WGSHA, because it was a graduate program. The other catering colleges were also there, but I came to WGSHA specifically for that. And Mr. Sundaresh Prasad, of course, was pretty dynamic enough to convince me to join here and do it here. The other option was engineering for me, which I dropped. More on a toss of a coin, so not saying that I did everything by the book. So then after WGSHA, of course, I went to, the best thing that I knew was to do, the 3 chains you go to, give the interviews, and then I joined ITC, became a management trainee, also worked for the WMI. I studied the WMI at the Maurya's, and I was picked up and was from the rest of my batch to open the Rajputana Sheraton. So I was a setup team out there, and I handled 150 people out there. I hired them, trained them, wrote the SOPs, and got them going, and the hotel was running. Though I had a 3-year stint at Jaipur when I quit. After that, actually, I took a year off. Unconventional, people don't do it. You can't show it on resumes. People don't like it because you can't explain. But I did, and I just, whatever I had earned, I took that money, converted to dollars, and I applied for a visa, and I got it, and I did go across, and I spent my time in the US, traveled the US for almost 8 months. I'm not saying that you guys do it, okay, but just be sure what you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just took my chances on that. And I wanted to discover myself more then. I was not happy, or I kind of realized that, ITC had to offer me what they had to offer me. I moved up pretty fast in my career, I thought, and didn't want to become a general manager of a hotel, and just, it's a good life. It was kind of defined. I had a good network within the hotel chain. So it was a good career path that I could have taken. But that was the easy way out for me. I didn't take that route. I took a little more difficult, little more different route I wanted to take. So it was not easy for a decision to take, especially to convince my parents and my family about it. But I took my chances. So I traveled, and I discovered the US. And now, why I went to the US and why not anywhere else is I had family there. So, my anchors were there. I also had a friend, and she said that she'll sponsor me down there, get a green card, live a comfortable life. So I did that, and before a year, and that was started with California. I moved to New York, and what really made some decisions out there is what I'm highlighting that now is you come to a crossroad, and you just say, it's going to be easy life. Get your green card, you work out there. You've got to be a slave there for some time. But I decided not to do that. I came back to India. And again, I didn't really know what I was coming back for, but it struck me that the place grows on you. But I did go and came back and did my MBA out here. Again, from WGSHA, I had 2 of my classmates who had done WGSHA. Vishal was one of the first ones, followed by Rakhi, and a couple of ITC guys have also done that. So US went there where you kind of knew comfortable with. And then I joined JACUS, which was the GE company which was coming for outsourcing. So I was the 70th employee. Why I'm highlighting all this is because if I'll track back and see what I did and what kind of nurtured me out was all these places were kind of startups. WGSHA was again a startup when I came here. I was the 3rd batch, maybe the first ITC selected batch kind of thing, and followed by WMI where I went to ITC. They've also moved to a new location. They were more defined. They were out of a home in Safdarjung, then they moved to a more defined place. So a lot of these things were and GE again was the same way too. GE again was 70th employee. People were just coming in from all of the places. So there were a lot of elements of a startup that was being building up on my mind, and kind of gave me the the push to kind of do multiple things that I could do. So it wasn't just set that you go to the office in the morning, get your teams ready, get them to go and do the work. So this is something that is building in the mind. I'm kind of enjoying it. It's kind of a different adrenaline that goes in your head. You're just looking for a new thing, and the learning curves are much higher. So the hats that you wear are not one. So you have to keep learning a lot of things all along the way. And, it is not rocket science. So you can acquire those skills, you can acquire those knowledge. Whatever externally you can get it, internally you imbibe, you talk, you read up, you do all those things. I still haven't done the entrepreneurship as yet. So now I move on to a new phase when after my GE, when I traveled, I met a lot of people in the US. And this is late 99. So, Silicon Valley was happening. And so they wanted me back. They probably met me, I kind of knew what they were doing. So I joined an imaging company out there, document management, which was basically scanning and putting out. And then you had universities that you were, basically archiving a lot of stuff, which is paper, so going paper to paperless. Now, taking that forward, and the internet was just on the brink out there, and the 99, 2000, this is actually 99, 98, 99, we moved to something called e-filing. Now, e-filing is basically integrating the courts and the attorneys. Okay, the real proper paper trail was that the attorneys filed the papers, they had a process server, which is basically a courier service, gives you to the court, stamps it, gives the money, and the case is registered. We were now using the internet to put that together in a single file. So obviously lawyers could procrastinate a little longer, but this is just an idea where I'm coming from, that here, these are different ideas that are coming from the valley, where you could have an idea, like you might have a dream, a lot of things that you want to ambition on, but you got to see that idea will work, and it has a right timing. Important. Now, this is, of course, I was under somebody's mentorship because I couldn't be in the US on my status of visa, but I was individually handling it. I've traveled all over California. So now the other thing I'm going to talk about is the hard work you got to do. So it doesn't come easy. You got to learn the skills. You got to learn the skills by reading it, also by, you got to experience it altogether. So you have to dirty your hands inside to make that call. So I've traveled all over California, 54 counties, those are districts. So they've had 17 case management systems. That means each of them had automation systems. We have 17 different one of them. You have to integrate the internet with them. And then internet had to be accepted by them as a legal thing. So early stages of the internet. And I was there doing that for them and gave me a different boost altogether. Having done that, I then moved on. Once the setup was done, I also got them venture funding out there. So I was part of the setup team. I went and got them the venture funding. I had to understand how venture funding was done in the Valley. They were going to go for an IPO, so I had to do all the work on that. Didn't go IPO. It got acquired. So the kind of learning curves you had on this was very entrepreneurial in the way I was given the opportunity of. And I completely headed out on my own on that. I didn't do the investment, but I think my mentors were far more reluctant to give out the money. So that's one thing. Another thing that comes in is that, when you're actually doing business and you want to actually become an entrepreneur, you got to keep a close watch on the funds you have. Okay, because they are limited. It's a limited resource. I mean, I know it's the social side. The US says they'll come to you. I agree they'll come to you, but I think initially the setup, I'm more skeptical on that, and I think you got to give a tight watch. You literally got to be like Marwari, if I can use the word, or a Banya, which I am. Okay, but I'm saying you got to keep your finger on that altogether, because it's not just your risk, it's the team's risk too, and they have life dependent on them too. So you succumb somewhere, you make one mistake, it's a ripple effect for a lot of other people and affect a lot of lives. So you got to be careful on that. You got to keep your funds on that. Having said that, I then moved on to a little comfortable zone in the US, and I moved to something called GE. So I worked for GE in India. My operations, so GE moved in India, in the US, they hired me back. I was going through a little family phase, I was getting married, want more stability, people don't understand your startup. You'll come across that too quite often. If you're doing a lot of startups or you're doing your own entrepreneurships, you're going to be having a lot of resistance. Everybody wants a stable life. So I joined that for a bit too, which I did for 2 years, which was a good experience. I learned a lot, but it was a mundane, not a 9-to-5 job, the 18 hours of job. GE sucks the blood out of you. Okay, so there's no 9-to-5 job anywhere. Okay, anyway, so having done that, I then moved back to the New York Bay. From California, I moved to New York, and that's when I started working on a couple of startup companies, which were more in the technical side. So now, if you notice, I am actually moving from hotels to ITES to pure technology. We also work with NASDAQ in between, which are intention on eSpace. I work with Verified by Visa. In fact, I was one of the few guys who got Verified Visa approved by Visa. We have 5 companies worldwide, which is the platform you use online right now. So, when you buy a transaction, use a Visa card or a MasterCard, that platform was done by us through my team. But I was heading that altogether in the US. My teams were back in India only. So there's a lot of learnings that I had along the way. The other thing that I did after that was, then I joined financial services company in New York, which was, again, now I'm doing bond trading. So any system that works on the financial street was a trading platform either built by us or built by us for them, or they're working on our platform. So what I'm highlighting here is that, I have not moved vertically, I've changed my verticals across the board. So, moved right from, hotels to ITS to financial to the bond trading side of it. So it's a great learning out there, and most of these done were, because in the US, I did open 2 companies of my own, but they shut down later on. So, the success rate is not guaranteed. You would be, coming to this crossroad all the time to make a hard call. And a lot of life decisions also matter along the way. So it may not be all your decision, just taking the risk and going forward. So take your risk early, but I think other thing that I want to highlight here is timing. Everything has a certain time in life, or the idea that has a life, it has to have the right timing. I think Divya talked about it. Had she done this a little earlier, would have failed. I'll share this with you that one of the things that I came back from the US, Vishal and I and Prasenjit, who's not here today, my batchmates, we tried to open a hotel chain for a budget chain called Zega Hotels. We tried, did the math. I'd come from New York. I had got a couple of financiers who would actually fund it for us. But I think we were a little late. We realized that we had come at least 6 months later, and a lot of other chains, international chains, had moved in for us to open a budget chain of hotels. And that's when we stopped. So, we took a hard call and saying, we will not go forward with this. We will just abandon it. So we didn't want to sink in the money and say, hey, just because you got onto it and we will do that, we did not do that. Then now what I do now is quite different. I do real estate. I do a lot of legal stuff. I have some between the High Court, Lower Court, and Supreme Court. I have multiple cases, which are related to my own assets that I look after, and I discover a lot of assets. I also do a bit of which is related to my business. I also do is mentoring small kids, which is in the education side, is primary school, run by my ex-headmasters from my previous school. And so these are kids under class 5, so I kind of mentor them. I'm the trustee. One of them is studying in Manipal. I kind of mentor these guys out right now. That's the long and short of it. I guess I won't go through the, what do you want to find out about, how to be a successful entrepreneur. You can Google it. You've heard a lot of them out here. There's enough information out there. The new teaching is going to be all on online. So you can just search everything out, acquire the skills and everything. And I think the way, the other thing that I'm doing right now also, and I'm actually, I'm not doing it myself because I got my hands full. I'm actually mentoring my wife and her team to do it, is opening food trucks in Dehradun. I have an area which is in the prime area, so I'm asking, instead of opening restaurants. Now, my experience being an F&B guy, we started with, as Divya said, you 90% fail and you don't even get to know of them. And this phenomenon is not in India, it's worldwide. Wherever you won't hear of the people who have failed opening restaurants or F&B, or businesses too, but F&B is very tricky. Restaurants are very tricky business. Don't enter it if you don't think, just because you're a good chef and you think you'll succeed, you won't. You got to have all the skills of an entrepreneur. You got to do marketing, you got to do, positioning, all that they talked in the morning about. So, all those skills are required and more, and patience. So it's very difficult to start with, so just don't enter it because you think your dad's got the money or your mom's got the money to sponsor you out, and you say, okay, I'll burn my fingers. Okay, that's what's happening right now. So there are more people who burn their fingers like that. So I'm not encouraging you right away. Get the experience, get the skills. Okay, you got to acquire all the skills that you need for it. You can find that out. They'll be taught in your classes. Quarter level talk, everybody will talk about those skills. And you can Google it too. But other than that, I think you will, you need to basically, so this food truck business that I was talking about is, it's a difficult business, so you don't require a big setup. When you open a restaurant, your first killer is going to be a rental you're going to pay off. So you're already behind time by 6 months, because by the time you really run full running, if you do well, to pay that off, it'll take you 6 months to pay the first month's rent, to cover out that up. So that is always a backup happening. So the food truck business is what I'm encouraging Dehradun. Dehradun is not a very rich town. I mean, there are rich people out there, but they don't like to spend out there. So you need to get what the market is. So you've got to understand what they're going to spend on, and you start small. And so what I'm doing right now for them is I'm providing them a platform where they get their own trucks. So I've tied up with trucks. I've also tied up with these, the guys who make these food trucks for them, and they can buy it from them, and I provide them a platform to, put as a restaurant truck park out there. And I'll do modifications on them also. So what I'm sharing here is not just I'm going to be, just providing a place and say, okay, guys, go run with it. I'm going to be mentoring them. I'm going to be also learning how it is done, okay, and see how they can be successful in that. That's by me right now. Thank you.